Hello and welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker and a comedian go to the prom of the 80s movies we love, think we love, or might have missed with these our grown-up eyes to see how they hold up. And today's selection is Pretty in Pink, a movie from 1986.
I love this woman, and I have to tell her. And if she laughs, she laughs.
It makes it easier to bear.
Feel any better if I asked you to the prom?
His name's Blaine. He's so beautiful.
Blaine? Oh, that's a major appliance. That's not a name.
You won't regret it, no. Some girls, they don't forget it.
Does he have strong lips? Strong lips.
Oh, feel their home. Happiness, yes.
Too weird for me, Maybe this shouldn't happen.
Maybe it doesn't happen all the time, but doesn't mean it isn't right?
This is not the time to get serious over some Nimrod.
He's gonna use you and then throw you away.
You're ashamed to be seen with me.
No, I am
You're
not.
ashamed to go out with me.
Squeeze her, don't tease her, never leave her.
You like him, he likes you. What his friends think shouldn't make any difference.
I just want to let them know that they didn't break me.
Just don't write love songs like they used to.
What a weird trailer. Okay. So I am Krissy Lenz, a comedian and director of the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona.
And I'm Nathan Blackwell, the token filmmaker who points out weird filmmaking things that only I enjoy. But that's okay. I'm comfortable.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Because that's what we need you for, is to point out all the things that we miss. I thought there were some filmmakery choices in this movie.
Well, it's interesting because I had totally forgotten that this is the first time I've seen Pretty in Pink.
Oh, is that right?
It's true.
That doesn't surprise me, but it does surprise me. I
can't say that it's in my Venn diagram. Like the John Hughes ones that I really enjoyed also tend to have some weird aspect to it, like I don't know, like magical realism. But it's geez, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I feel like
filmmakery. There were filmmakery choices.
It was interesting because I had forgotten that John Hughes hadn't directed this. So it was interesting to be so familiar with John Hughes as a writer-director, but then to see someone else take his script and to interpret it was interesting,
I did find it interesting because it does have a different, it has a real similarity to 16 Candles, but it has a very different vibe. It has
a different pace.
Yeah,
and that's a negative, not a positive.
Well, I think we're gonna find a lot of fun areas to disagree because this movie was very important to me in my teenage years, not just from the point of view of like wanting to be like Molly Ringwald and dress like Molly Ringwald and work at a record store like Molly Ringwald. It was also from the point of view of like, I really see this whole movie from Ducky's point of view. Like I see myself as the Duckie wanting to be the Molly Ringwald, just a like a goofy misfit who just falls in love and can't let go, and the falling in love and the longing becomes your whole personality. And also a lot of the side characters, like her, the gal who runs the record store that's played by Annie Potts. I was like, okay, I'm Duckie now. I want to be Molly Ringwald someday, and then when I grow up, I'll be Annie Potts. So, this was a big one for me because of those characters, but not necessarily because of the plot or the content of the movie.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Or the storytelling or the pace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I get that. They were also my favorite characters.
Mm-hmm. So we start with her getting ready for school, and it's just like a music video almost of like her being quirky and odd.
Mm-hmm. Thrift story.
Mm-hmm. And that sort of thing that would become very cool in the 90s shortly after this, which is like grandma chic. Layer after layer, vest after vest, florals and plaids, and tights on tights on tights.
Mm-hmm.
I am super into it, but she clearly lives on literally the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, they literally have a shot of her neighborhood and they cross some tracks, and then there's a much posher neighborhood right on the other side. I feel like John Hughes, it's like everything, whether it was intentional or not, all the kids were pretty upscale suburban kids, like, I have to assume that was John Hughes's background. And so this is the first time of him kind of going out of his comfort zone and depicting like poorness, like poor people in Chicago. And so I feel like sometimes, it's displayed so quirky because that's the only way he thinks it can be interesting. Like it never feels like it's a really insightful view of poor people or low income people, doesn't necessarily seem like truthful, but
it's more of a skewer at the Richies, which like Richies, that's what we're gonna call them.
Yeah, they are portrayed comically evil in this, or lame,
But they are just as evil, I would say, as that Jake. When we get to the big party scene where Blaine brings her to the party, they're just as evil as the kids at Jake Ryan's party in 16 Candles. They're trashing the house, they're drunk, they're, trading each other back and forth. It's all about like sex and drugs and pizza.
Mm-hmm. I feel like one thing that John Hughes was able to thread the needle so well on is that any time that he depicted kind of like extreme behavior, there was a touch of comicness to it, of comedy to it, to where it was almost saying, we get this is a bit big, you're meant to laugh, which we're in this, it's taken very straight, and it just feels like it, like a matter of fact portrayal. And then you kind of like, it's like when you watch a movie, you there is that buy-in, that suspension of disbelief, but it's not something that is all or nothing. Your system is constantly like accepting or rejecting, portrayals, as things come in, like an immune system. And I feel like these exaggerated, like mustache twisting, although they haven't been able to grow like facial hair, teenagers yet, I felt rejecting it rather than like in a John Hughes directed film. There's almost that wink that allows me to accept it.
I think that's a super interesting take. I felt like looking at this with my grown-up eyes that they were alluding to blank, 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 but not actually showing it. So the Harry Dean Stanton character, who is her father, who like can't get up in the morning, can't hold down a job, like is almost always in pajamas, and it's just like this, shiftless layabout that she takes care of, down to like making him breakfast and getting him his coffee and get up, Dad, you've got an appointment today at the job clinic or whatever. It's like, is he an alcoholic? If he was an alcoholic, I think that makes this a different better mood. They're just hinting that he is,
Mm-hmm.
but we never see him hold a drink, and we never know why
it's the
he
PG
is so
version
messed
of
up.
it. Like the studio said, we cannot have alcohol in this movie or we get bumped up to this rating or whatever. So it's just like implied but never said, like a studio note, it's been removed.
Yeah, and it's like, so she's from the wrong side of the tracks, and she's very poor because apparently she and her dad just live off her part-time record store income, and he's just sad. He's not impaired. He's just too depressed, I guess, but I wanted there to be something else to him because he plays, it's Harry Dean Stanton. He plays it very earnest, and he is very, a lovable fuck up, I guess, but I just wanted him to have a teensy bit more edge.
Mm-hmm. He had a lot of mirth. He had plenty of mirth,
but not enough to get a fucking job.
Right.
And there's a moment later where, like, throughout this whole watch of this movie, I was like, is Ducky homeless? Is Ducky homeless? Does he live on the street? We see him from time to time, like, in the rain, sitting on top of newspaper dispensers. But when we do see his room, it's like the saddest room ever. And so, like, I think they're hinting at he has this terrible home life.
Right.
But we never see it.
Yeah, I felt like I wanted more there, like almost, when we saw his room, it felt like, again, like an exaggeration of what a rich person thinks a poor person what life looks like, They
must not have a bed frame.
Yeah. I would have liked to see more, like, he is living with his elderly grandma, and it's a pretty beat up place, and and so the Ducky we see is all generated, which is what they're effectively implying, anyway, that he's manifesting
this personality that wants to he's protecting himself by being this outwardly goofy lovable guy. But of all of the moments in this movie, what I'm hearing us say is that we want a gritty remake of Pretty in Pink.
Well, it's almost it's like we're saying, like, we want a goofy version, or like John Hughes would have had, or a slightly more realistic version. And I feel like it kind of travels this very safe middle ground, I would say that it yeah, but it's tough because, I mean, John Hughes films feel both like that magical realism, that a little more silly, but at the same time they also feel like emotionally honest.
Okay, I hear that, but also, like, if you look at Pretty in Pink, I think those characters are like cartoon versions of these characters. Molly Ringwald in that movie is just like, I'm 16. And then this one, she's like, oh my God, I have to have a job, and my dad's a weirdo, and I got this kid who follows me around, and, like, she just has more of a real life, I think. But this is wrong side of the tracks, Molly Ringwald. But we do get to see her at school, and the rich kids do just treat her like absolute filth.
Yeah.
They cannot even be neutral to her, let alone kind.
Yeah.
They treat her like absolute trash.
Is she going to some sort of prep school, some special, like, gifted school, or like, it's not like a normal public school, because everyone there seems rich. She seems to be the only poor person, and even the principal or whoever she talks to, the guidance counselor, is like, you're really lucky to be here.
Yeah, I thought so too, but then there is that moment where Blaine comes outside and all the weird kids are outside. So
again, that felt like, okay, so what would the weird kid section look like? Okay, Trilby hats. We're gonna give them all, like, little weird hats.
Little weird hats, or like slightly or mismatched earrings.
Oh my God, those freaks.
But all of the rich kids, all of the, like, class high class kids wear only, like, white, blue, and gray. Like, they're always in, like, khaki, white, blue, and gray. the inside of the school is all white, blue, and gray. And then anytime we see the poor kids, there's more black, white. It's more like black, white, red, sort of harsher colors. So I thought that was kind of a filmmaker-y choice, or would that be more of a set decorator-y choice or a costuming?
Ultimately, it's a collaboration, So it is a filmmaker-y choice, but it could have been something. Any good production designer or set decorator, costume designer is gonna come up with a bunch of ideas like that,
Yeah, I really, I did like it on this one, and I like thought it was funny. Like every time they'd be like, "Oh, here are the bad kids. Look at how big their hair is." But the important thing to note is that James Spader is in this movie, and he is going for it in that James Spader way that I love so much. His hair is so feathered, it's so blow dried, and the first time we meet him, he like very quickly reveals like to Andie, which is Molly Ringwald, like, I like you, I want to get together with you, and I don't mean just sex, but I like you, and I've liked you for 4 years, and you've never given me the time of day. And she treats him like absolute shit. So I really saw the other side of it too. Like, she's not open-minded to any of the rich kids except Blaine. She treats them all like shit. They treat her like shit. And James Spader is like being kind of open and like, I like you. Yeah. Why don't you like me? And she's like, fuck off, buddy. So he becomes the villain because as soon as it's revealed that Andrew McCarthy has feelings for Andie, he's like got to cut that off at the knees. Like, oh, she's terrible, she's trash, she's gross, you don't like her. We're not going to be friends anymore if you like her. And it's very obviously because he told us because he likes her.
Yeah. He's very arch, he's very much like the sinister bad guy in the story.
But there's nothing that's better about Blaine. So Blaine is like flirting with her via a computer, which you have to just love the romantic 86 computer flirting.
Yes.
But other than that, he seems to me to bring nothing to the table to make him, he's different, she says. He's different than the others. What? How? In what way?
Right. His best moments are during the initial wooing and then during the very end that they reshot. We right. I feel like we can't go any further without talking about the infamous reshoot of the movie.
Excellent. Let's talk about it because I have feelings.
Yes. So
it's all about prom. This movie is all about prom.
Right.
And the end of the movie is prom.
They set the stakes very early, which is the dad saying, "Oh, that would look great at prom." Like any dad fucking cares.
And prom. Andy Potts, the record store owner, is like, "I have a friend who didn't go to prom," and she wakes up in the night screaming.
No father wants his daughter to go to prom because he knows that there's going to be hands all over her.
Right.
Fact.
This dad does. Like, John Hughes has a real, especially when it comes to Molly Ringwald, he's got a real creepy dad thing where he wants these dads to be like into their daughters' romantic lives.
John. Okay, so what were we talking about? The reshoot. So the way that it was originally written is that Andrew McCarthy. This is a Cinderella story, and at the very end, Molly Ringwald was supposed to choose Duckie, her friend, versus the dream boy who let her down.
Right.
And the problem is that this story sets us up for like a Cinderella kind of story to where it's about finding that dreamy dude, working out the way that the divide is actually class. High class versus low class, and that she should eventually, despite their difficulties through class, both find a way to be together. And I think the way that the beginning of the movie frames it, I think the way that the casting frames it, that's ultimately that's the story that the audience wants.
Right.
Versus, let's say, the value of the story itself, I feel it doesn't make a case of saying McCarthy does kind of become a bit of a lame duck in the middle of the movie.
He sure does.
Yeah. And that's supposed to be what is twisting the audience's expectations, so that eventually she settles with someone who she is, a friend with. This is the original script kind of wants to make the case of someone getting out of the friend zone.
Well, I hear that, but I didn't read it that way this time. I thought it was like it's better for her to go to the prom without a date, just on her own, with her friend there, just as a friend.
Yes, yeah.
To show that, like she says, I want them to know they didn't break me. That story I wanted to hear because, I saw it from that point of view this time because I didn't think Blaine did anything to warrant any kind of forgiveness.
Yeah, and so ultimately it's the script problems of establishing one premise, the Cinderella story, and then veering in a different direction, and
not addressing at all. They talk about how his parents are going to treat her,
right?
But we don't see the parents interact with her,
right? And so the initial framework is, so when she ended up with Duckie at the end of the original cut of the movie, the audience booed the movie out of the theater. Yeah. And I get it, because they were set up to have that other kind of ending. Yes, Andrew McCarthy is a D-bag or becomes pretty lame. He's just lame. It's not that he's not a mini Spader,
right?
It's that he's just kind of lame. And so, but what the audience is hoping for, is that he snaps out of it. And I get it, because Duckie, and then it's like Duckie is like the best friend. He's like the gay best friend who doesn't know he's gay. Like Molly Ringwald was 0% surprised because she thought that Duckie was gay.
Right.
And so what you have, and then also he's like, to kind of like support that, he's like loudly declaring just how hetero he is and how he's going to marry her, and it's kind of annoying to her. And then the way that the Andrew McCarthy Blaine is introduced, it's very much as kind of the dreamy, mysterious, romantic dude initially.
But I just needed there to be a little bit more character development to Blaine.
Yes.
To let us know, in the same way that, like, Jake Ryan is nothing except someone she has set her sights on in 16 Candles. In this, it's like she didn't even seem aware of Blaine. It's not like she had this like harbored crush on him in the way that she does Jake Ryan in 16 Candles. She doesn't even seem aware of him, but I wanted him to like want to be rebellious or in some way have where, like if he had really liked it at the club, because they go to a party at his friend's place and it's a disaster. Then they go to the club where she hangs out and it's a disaster. But like if he had really liked it there and really liked, he likes her, but there wasn't anything that seemed like a little edgy. And at first he's like, I don't care what my parents say. I don't care what my friends say. And then 15 minutes later, he's like, nope, I do care what my friends say. I do care what my parents say. Oopsie doopsie. My bad. It's not worth it to me after all. And then he doesn't redeem himself at the end. Like the only thing that he did to redeem himself was come to the prom alone. Yeah. He didn't apologize to her. He didn't go to her. So to me, there was nothing at the beginning for him, nothing in the middle with him, and nothing at the end for him, except for that the movie wanted me to be happy they're together. I wanted her to be alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted her to be happy.
The most
alone.
satisfying story of all. Yeah.
Where the girl doesn't have to have any of the other two men. But there was, but I love that. I love that they shot the movie and they're like, this is how it goes. And they're like, oh, everybody hates it.
Oh my God.
Everybody hates it.
Mistake.
Oh shit. Oh no. And then they give Duckie a girl at the end.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I wish it would have been like a quirky girl and not just like some
regular girl.
Yeah.
Or how about a boy?
Exactly.
I don't think we could have pulled that off in 1986.
No.
But
and I'm not even sure if Duckie is ready for that yet. You know?
No. But he didn't need to be given a girlfriend. Like he could have even been given like a best friend or somebody else to hang with. I don't know. I get it. It's the simplest way out.
Yeah.
Of the hole they dug.
Yeah. That's. The problem is that it starts in one place, it totally shifts and starts going in all these other directions, and then it kind of then wraps up breakneck to where it started, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Except there was an added element for me watching it this time, and this is, the idea is that we go to it with our grown-up eyes.
Yeah.
And I had written in for myself for the first time, because I'm a very innocent young lady, that they did have sex in the hay at the hunt club.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when he does break up with her. So they had been setting it up this whole time that, all James Spader wanted was to have sex with her and then he would ditch her. Duckie says to Andie, he's just going to try and get you into bed and then he's going to ditch you. That's what they do. And James Spader says to Blaine, just nail her and be done with it. And then I think that is what happened, that they had sex in the very uncomfortable hay. And then he did ditch her, because that made way more sense to me this time than that they were just sort of slowly plodding along. And also, like, you don't ask someone to prom on your second date.
Right.
Unless, and I read it this time that he really was trying to get her into bed and then dump her. Like when they go to the Richie party, he's like, let's go upstairs. Why? What? Why? And she's like, no, thank you, sir. And he's like, no, we'll just eat pretzels. Let's go upstairs. So that was something that I brought into it this time, or took away from it this time, that I hadn't ever let myself sort of believe before. And, she's not upset that she had sex with him and then he dumped her. She's just sad that he eventually did dump her. And so she seems like an unsavvy fool. I just like this movie, though, in spite of all those problems.
Yeah, I just found it unsatisfying in a lot of ways. Like, I enjoyed hanging out with a number of the characters, and I don't fault anyone for, loving some of the characters, but I just found it unsatisfying in a lot of ways.
I do have so many favorite moments, though. Every time Duckie is being so charming and being I'm off like a dirty shirt. May I admire you again today? I think he's so cute, and I just identify with him so much. The whole scene where he sings along to Try a Little Tenderness, I think is cinema gold. And I think that the world agrees with me, because they made it the entire trailer to this movie.
Thank you, the world.
Thank you, the world. And I also really like the part where so Andie and Andrew McCarthy have been broken up, or they just break up in the hall. evil James Spader is there overhearing it, smoking a cigarette. There's more smoking happening in this high school than you can even believe. The floors of this high school are just littered with cigarette butts. In fact, Andie's like 45-year-old lady friend in class is like smoking in gym. But he's overhearing, he's listening, and then Ducky overhears the two of them being like, she's trash, forget it, you did the right thing, ugh, she's so gross, she's a total lameoid, don't even worry about it. And then Ducky confronts Steph, who is James Spader, and like they have a very lame, very high school-y fight. And then as he's running out of the building, Ducky rips down the sign that says vote for prom king and queen. And I love that scene. I thought it was so like painful to see Ducky like take on this kid who's like huge. Like James Spader seems like he's 40 in this movie. And John Cryer legitimately seems like a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Even though he probably was very old. I don't know. He seemed young. James Spader seemed like a full-on adult. But for him to just be brave enough to attack him and then get his ass kicked and then run away, I thought that scene was really like kind of beautifully painful. I thought it was like, and not, you know, in my gritty reboot, that scene's gonna make people cry.
So what else is in the gritty reboot? What's different? The dad's a drunk, right?
The dad's a drunk. They're probably in danger of like losing their home.
He should just be a sad alcoholic, not an angry one, you know?
Right. No, I think he's still a good dad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like the contrast of a really good dad, but yet having a really big problem.
Yeah. I think that she is a scholarship kid.
They should make the school even preppier, you know, even like, you know, like maybe not school uniforms, but something along those lines, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it is uniforms and she just makes hers weird. And she really wears hers weirdly. But then we have to answer the question of why is Ducky there? Is he also really smart? Because they make the case in this movie that he is trying to fail out of high school so he doesn't have to leave high school.
Right. He should be like effortlessly smart on some of these things. He's book dumb, but inherently smart. You know, like he is failing, he's always struggling, he's always late, but he's able to snap together this and that and when he needs to, you know?
Yeah. Or maybe he is like really book smart and he just can't get his life together because he's hiding his secret that deep down he's gay, and he's going to go on this journey to realize that he is gay, and he is like obsessed with Andie just as a way of not having to face it.
Yeah, his problem is more emotional, you know, of trying to find the person that he loves and to latch onto them and realizing this is the person that he loves, but it's because it's the only person he loves, you know, as a friend.
Yeah. And at the end of his movie, he gets a boy.
Well, that might be too. He gets another friend who is a boy, and we hint, but not a romantic friend, because I feel like Ducky hasn't yet gone through that journey. He doesn't know yet.
Right.
But what he needs is another person to love other than just this one person. Right.
I also think in our gritty reboot, there's something going on with the rich kids. Like there's something going on between Steph and Blaine that adds another layer to their sort of frenemy status.
Yep.
Like their parents are involved somehow. I do want in our gritty reboot to meet the parents.
Yes, she's got to be invited to. We've got to play up this class thing. That should be our conflict. And so the class pressure from the parents has to be stronger. There's got to be some point where the dad shows up at the parents' house to really make things uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah. I like this. I like our gritty reboot.
It's not
and
even
Molly
that gritty.
Ringwald
It's
can
just
play the mom.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
Molly
even...
Ringwald can play the rich mom.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. She's got to be the meanest person in the movie. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
They get invited to a country club.
Yeah, and it's
or
just
hang
like
gliding.
the scene in Karate Kid.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a feeling you're gonna rate this movie pretty low.
It's true.
On a scale of 1 prom.
Although this movie was
proms.
very influential to my 46-year-old man life, on retrospect, I'm gonna have to give it a low rating. So.
Okay. 1 prom to 10 proms,
right.
Because proms are so important that if you miss them, you wake up screaming.
Mm-hmm.
How many proms do you give it?
I inherently don't give things like really low ratings unless I hate them, and I don't hate this.
Good. I'm glad that you don't hate it.
Yeah, like there's usually something that has to kind of stick in my proverbial craw for me to hate it. Like Young Guns.
Right.
But yeah,
Guns.
So I'm gonna give it a 5.
Okay.
Maybe I enjoyed it more on the 4 level.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do like a number of the characters, and there is quirky fun, and there is good lines. It's just in terms of a joy and entertainment value, for me, it was low.
Yeah, I hear you. I do hear you.
I feel seen.
Okay,
even
good.
though you only hear me.
Yeah, I hear you and I see you, Nathan, and I understand how you feel. But I just find Duckie so iconic, and Andie and Iona, just the characters are what makes this movie a 7 for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, good, because that's all this movie has going for it.
It really, truly is. The story of this movie is very dumb. And also, I think it's lame that it ends right when they smooch at prom. It's like, start there and give me Pretty in Pink 2 and let me know how they handle all of these other problems that are going to come up for them. Because I don't believe they stay together.
Mm-hmm. Well, does anyone in high school? Yeah. I'm not sure if anyone in high school should stay together.
No, I don't even think they stayed together till the next day. And that's fine. You don't have to find everlasting love.
Right.
But yeah, I give this movie a 7 just on pure Duckie Dale power alone.
Okay.
He for me is a 10. But because he's in this movie and not another movie, I have to draw it down to a 7.
Okay.
7 proms out of 10 proms. And would you recommend people watch this movie? Because I do. I recommend people watch this movie so that they can get acquainted with Duckie.
I would... No, I would not recommend. I would say that there's probably more... There would be at least 3 or 4 more John Hughes movies that I would recommend above this.
Sure.
This would be more. It's like, oh well, okay. Let's see what's left. Pretty in Pink or 16 Candles. Really, just flip a coin.
Flip a coin. Well, and so my take on this this next little double feature that we're doing is they're probably problematic, right? Is this probably problematic teen movie in the same way that 16 Candles is a definitely problematic teen movie? I didn't think this was.
No, I don't think it is. No, I don't.
It should have been.
It should have been more problematic, and I'm angry.
Yeah, same. But on the probably problematic scale of Pretty in Pink and then Teen Wolf, this one is surprisingly not. And I have a feeling that one is going to be.
Let's just
really
reframe the whole theme then.
Yeah.
I think because it's not very problematic. Damn it! I'm not outraged. What is this?
Now you're outraged, though. You're outraged that you're not upset.
Is that a thing? Please write in.
Please tell us. What is your deep cut recommendation for a movie that you did not enjoy?
So it's like, okay, if you felt so if Krissy's is well, if you love this movie or parts of it, here's what else you would love. Mine is, so you didn't like this movie. Here's something else you should have watched. And this is all based off of just like imagery that's in the movie. It's like, oh, I wish I was watching High Fidelity instead.
Oh.
So mine is the anti-romance rom-com High Fidelity with John Cusack and Jack Black, which admittedly I've not seen in a while, but I still have fond memories of it.
I think there are some problematic elements in that one, but I do love Jack
Black. If you needed more problematic elements and you wanted to be more outraged, then this is great.
And that's the perfect recommendation.
Yes, so more of a unconventional rom-com that is also set in a record store. Then High Fidelity is my recommendation.
I think that's great. I went a maybe weird way.
Okay.
But I've always been struck, and it's something that has stayed with me for a long time. We established that Andie, the character of Molly Ringwald, makes her own clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And we only get to see her make her clothes once, when she takes 2 prom dresses and Frankensteins them into the ugliest prom dress ever to exist in or outside of the 80s. And she takes a really cute dress that Annie Potts gives her and turns it into a hideous potato sack. But I was responding to the idea that she makes her own clothes. And I recently attended an event that was a social, SEW, social, where everybody made their own clothes and went to the party and showed off the clothes that they made. And I thought it was really fun. And so I wanted to recommend that people make their own clothes. Just give it a whirl. Try making garments. And then check out the hashtag Arizona Social. Arizona all spelled out SEW social. Or, obviously, if you're not in Arizona, check out around you to see if there's a sewing event where you can make something and wear it. Because it was really fun, and it can be your prom.
Great.
So thank you so much for listening. Do stick around. Our member content today is going to be me and Nathan picking out our double feature of 90s movies we would do if we were to branch out into the 90s. And to get that, you have to be a member. You have to go to truestory.fm and join up, support our pod, and we're going to give you all that juicy, delicious bonus content. And Nathan, where can people support your filmmaking endeavors?
The easiest route is Squishy Studios. So if you check out squishystudios.com or Squishy Studios on Facebook and Instagram, that'll lead you in the right direction. But the big project that we've been working on is an indie feature film, which is just we can now announce that we got into the Phoenix Film Festival. So at the end of March, if you're in the Phoenix area, you can see our movie, The Last Movie Ever Made, which is a dramatic comedy. And so, if you want to check it out, or you can check us out on social media, we're submitting to film festivals throughout the country. And so there might be a screening that is in your neck of the woods if you live in the woods.
That would be so great if all of our listeners who live in the woods come to see you. Wouldn't that be neat? Would you love to meet listeners?
Yes, I would love to meet listeners.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. You can find me at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater, the actual place in downtown Mesa, Arizona, or you can find me online at Most Excellent Krissy or at Most Excellent Pod. And do check out all the other fun stuff on True Story FM. My other podcast, Gank That Drank, a supernatural drinking game podcast, is on there. You can hear me on a bunch of the other podcasts that are on there, like the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society and the Film Board and things like that. So check all of that out. Thank you for listening. And when you're out there in the world, remember, do your best to look pretty. Always wear pink. Be excellent to each other.
Okay.
And
party on, dudes.